the nature of the institution is not so important as the people that work in the institution.
I at least have been pleasantly surprised by the extent to which, from a fairly early stage in the research, the findings began to confirm SAMU's position. Not necessarily that the private sector had no role, but in many instances the question itself was unrealistic given South African context, and that was, given the state of water delivery or non-delivery, the question about who delivers was really a luxury.
When it comes to capacity, I think we found in the research the stock answer that's coming from certain quarters is that if local government's not managing to deliver the services, then it should be replaced by some other institution or some other form. But equally, what was coming across from local government and from the research itself is saying that we should rather be finding ways to strengthen local government. So if you have to bring in some other player, bring them in a way that develops capacity in local government and makes it possible for local government to be the service provider of choice. There are certain key problems in retaining the kind of staff that you need.
The issues about the staff turnovers in terms of municipalities, as a district municipality, because we are a rural municipality, we have had quite a lot of challenges in terms of not retaining personnel. And remember, a professional to go and work in a rural village is kind of a very, very difficult, where the incentive is not there.
What we are proposing as water dialogues is that we need a two-pronged approach. One is to meet the need for artisans and people on the ground who can actually repair the infrastructure and keep it going. And there we're drawing on the work of the Japanese model, where they have created a program where linked to the major metropolitan area, they've created this training facility. It's a kind of under one roof simulation, all the different kinds of problems that a water and sanitation artisan could expect. Train people in those skills so that we develop a large grouping of skilled artisans for the country. That's at the one end. The other extreme is we're realizing that the managers that are left who have the skills that are needed to run water services providers are reducing dramatically and will continue to reduce over the next 5 to 10 years. So we again wanting to develop the idea, which has been around for a while, of training managers from water services provider institutions to have the skills that they need, whether it's customer management, asset management, strategic planning, tariff setting. Teach them by using the older managers. I guess people like me have been around a long time. Learn from our mistakes rather than having to remake the mistakes. We also found from the research that if you continue restructure and try and recreate new institutions, you don't actually improve the situation.
The amount of institutional change within a very short time, it's one of the things that is hampering the whole local government. You've got your Section 78, and municipalities have now completed the Section 78 assessments, and you find that you've got issues of institutional reforms. And now there's a talk now about institutional realignment. So it means, therefore, within the water sector, you have to be on top of your toes each time.
Most municipalities that embarked on Section 78 only went to step one of the process, where they looked at the current service provision option and never went to phase 2 or phase 3, where the law requires that the local authority then goes outside and consults with the community, consults with all the interested stakeholders to determine the best way forward. So Section 78's intentions are good and the way it's written is very thorough, but in reality local government is not using it effectively. The research is showing if you get the governance structures right, you get the leadership right, you get the right people in that can attract the right skills and put the right processes in place, you can turn local government. Joburg Water is an example. Joburg Water, from the research, if you look at what it was like before the intervention and after the intervention, it transformed from being in a very desperate situation to being in a situation where it was effectively delivering services.
We recognize also the fact that institutional per se are very important, but also what sustains them and what how you implement this institutional arrangement in terms of values, common values around the table are also as important.
So most of our members have concluded that it's not so much a question of public or private, it's actually a question about how do we make sure that those values and principles infuse the sector, whether it's a public or a private provider. And some of those values and principles include transparency, openness, and honesty in amongst the different groupings, having a shared purpose and commitment, having a plurality of perspectives and that sort of richness that brings, inclusivity in managing that diversity, mutual respect, and a commitment to solving the problems, not just talking about them endlessly, but solving them and holding each other accountable. So it's not just rights, it's rights and responsibilities. And finally, a learning and sharing, and really being interested in that sort of informed decision making.
It's true that the research showed that local government is not listening to its citizens, and that we need to find ways to support local government to be able to do that. So local government is delivering, if it is delivering, more on the technology side and less on the social side, meeting the needs of people when it comes to affordable tariffs, acceptable levels of service, having facilities where citizens can go and raise issues and have their voice heard. And that links with the new shift in government, who's talking about improved service delivery. So we're talking about accelerated service delivery, and we're talking about letting people's voices be heard. And the research backs that up. Those are the cries of the municipality citizens that we interviewed. They are saying those very things. And so we need to find ways through the dialogue process, because that's really the only way we can think about it, is to get people around the table, get civil society, get the private sector and the public sector to sit together and say, how do we engage with communities? How do we meet their needs? How do we hear what they're saying? How do we structure solutions that meet what they're saying? Rather than what often is the current process of either doing nothing or ignoring people, not wanting to go out and hear because it's too painful, and rather creating a group of managers that are strong enough and willing enough to actually go and do that, do the right thing.
It's valuable to assess what works and what doesn't, and whether there can be lessons drawn from that for the country as a whole and even for the rest of the world. So we were very happy to be able to support this process.